It usually just takes a couple seconds. Okay, good. Here we are. Welcome everybody to Menopause Chicks. I am so excited today because I have been wanting to have this conversation for at least the last 3 years. I remember when Mokita came out, which was 3 years ago. I was, really focused at the time on women's health information, but I knew that there were so many other conversations that we need to crack open. And one of the lines from my TED Talk is, midlife has this way of shining a big, bright light on who we are, what we want to do with our precious time at work, who we want to spend our precious time with in relationships, and so much more. And so today, I have the pleasure of moderating this conversation about career moves in midlife and career change. And it's so funny because I was thinking about my friends who have had this experience, and then I was like, oh, right, I had a career change too. When I started Menopause Chicks, I had a thriving marketing and communications business, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to start a blog off the end of my desk, and that will be that. I didn't even know at the time that it was going to become my new full-time job. So I think we all kind of go through these changes, whether they're planned, unplanned. You might be watching this today and thinking that a change is in store for you. And I can tell you that the stories that you're going to hear are going to inspire you to follow your heart. So I want to thank you for joining us. We are doing this in the lead up to World Menopause Day, which is Monday, October 18th. I hope you'll go to worldmenopauseday.com and register. There are 4 live events that you can sign up for. So we're trying to hit all the different time zones. And if you can't make the live, you get a copy of the replay, which you can watch and rewatch and share with all your friends. And I want to dedicate this conversation today to all the teachers and educators, all the nurses and healthcare professionals, and all of the entrepreneurs, all of the women in general who have been holding up our world lately and continue to do so. And I'm going to start. Did we lose Nancy?
She just disappeared.
Hopefully she can come back on in a second. But we're going to start with Nikki. So Tanya, I'm just going to close this if that's okay with you. Oops, no, I got you. There we go. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to hear your story, and I want to thank you, first of all, because you inspired us organizing this event today. Tell us about the work that you do and what brought you to Menopause Chicks.
Okay, well, first off, thank you. Thank you for this invitation. It's such an honor to be here amongst people. Feels like my tribe here. We're all experiencing similar things. That's why we're gathering here in this meeting. So thank you, Shirley. So my name's Nikki Self. I live here in Toronto. I started my business 5 years ago. I have a soap refill delivery service here in Toronto. Our goal is to make it easy for households to get access to refillable products that you use every day. We're really working hard on getting rid of waste. We want to address that single-use plastic problem, not just on the customer end, but we're really working also in the supply chain to shake things up and change that whole paradigm, because we used to do this back in the day with milk. So there's no reason why we can't go back there. So I was really inspired to create something different. When I started my business in 2016, little did I know at that moment, I was entering my first year of menopause. So I was going through a whole really tumultuous change in life. Not only was I changing my career, my vocation, I was embarking on something that was really dear to my heart and close to me, but my body was going through some changes that I actually wasn't really so versed on. There's no, are you there, God, it's me, Margaret, for women in this stage of life. So I started to do some personal research because I thought, I'm just not feeling right. There's got to be something going on here. And I wasn't getting answers in the conventional medical community. I couldn't find anything. And I stumbled miraculously on menopause checks. And I had to call Shirley. Eventually I sent her an email. I said, you literally saved me, because I thought I was alone in a lot of my experiences. I thought I was, kind of losing it, or my brain wasn't functioning like it used to. So, and then you're trying to, I was so passionate about my new career. So I really wanted to be able to bring all these pieces together, but the loose ends were flying. So that's kind of the cycle I came around to land at Menopause Chicks. And it's just so great to be able to be here, meet other women going through the same experiences. And so we can compare notes and share and bring this out of the box. It's been like this too long.
I mean, so many things that we were able to connect on, Nikki. One, you launching your business.
Yes.
A business that holds up the world, in a special and unique way. So thank you for doing that. And that just happens to be a phrase that I use a lot, because I really think, some people like the term midlife women. Some people don't like the term. It doesn't bother me in the least, but I know that for the majority of our audience, we're all holding up the world in some way, whether it's shopping for sustainable products or looking after our, aging parents or our kids, or Tanya has a grandchild. I mean, it's so amazing the number of changes that we could connect on. And I remember two things about meeting you, actually. First, I remember the day I got your email. I was standing in line. My daughter was out for her driving lesson, and I was doing the pacing, the parent pacing lane. And your email came in, and you did say something to the effect of changing your life, which I just really appreciated and really stuck with me. So thank you for that. And the second thing was, you told me a story about your mom.
Oh, yes.
I'd love for you to share with us.
I would love to share that. So my mom is kind of my superhero. So big shout out to you if you're listening, or when you will hear this. So my mom is a registered nurse, and she still works. She's been a registered nurse, forget this, 61 years.
Oh my goodness.
And she still works full time. She can run circles around me in energy. It's wild. She's just, and she's, she has no plans of quitting either. My mother's 79, incredibly fit, vital, just contributing. She just can't see herself not being engaged in society. So when, being out there in the world, contributing, so when I talk to her and I think about it, I go, okay, so I'm 53. When I do the math on that, it's like, we got a lot of years to plan for. So, yeah. And I'm sure she's not alone. There are a lot of women in this age bracket, like mentors, people who helped me in my business, people I've spoken to that just guided me. It's like experience. You cannot, data and no amount of Google searches can make up for the experience that somebody lives that they can transmit. So, yeah, it's vital.
Is so amazing. Huge shout out to Nikki's mom and to all the nurses and healthcare workers who are joining us today. I just love that story. Love it, love it, love it. So probably a good segue to bring Tanya on. And for those of you that don't know Tanya Thompson Stryker, we went to kindergarten together. So this is a bit of a reunion today on so many levels. Tanya, thanks. Oh, you'll need to unmute. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to hear your story. I know you've gone through some new education, some new career moves recently, and they're really inspiring to me. So I wanted to share it with everyone.
Oh, thanks, Shirley. I've been so excited to do this, actually. So it's I've been thinking about sort of how to talk about everything that's gone on. So I was a nurse in a previous life too, Nikki, have been for a lot of years. And people talk in this day and age about not identifying with this and not identifying with that. Well, for me, that's sort of how I describe it now, particularly the last 15 years or so. I really didn't identify fully with the nursing profession. That really wasn't who I was, but I feel that I was really born in the wrong time frame, because if I'd been born earlier, I could have been like my grandmas and my aunts that were lay midwives in the community. Or if I'd been born later, like my children's age, now there's a regulated midwifery program that's really well known and accepted in Ontario. So I was just born in the wrong time frame to really make this an easy thing in my life. But easy doesn't always necessarily mean good or great, right? So I worked as a nurse for, well, I graduated in 1989, so I guess that's 32 years ago I graduated. And for the most part have worked in the maternity side of things. Labor and delivery has been kind of, particularly the last 20 years, in Owen Sound Hospital. But again, never really felt like I was in the right fit. I did what I could in the profession that I was in, but it never really felt like it was me. So a few years ago, I started to pursue looking at what it would mean to go back to school and become a midwife, and had a million conversations in my own head, talking myself into it and talking myself out of it 1,000 million times.
Right.
Thinking, this can't work. It's too late in my life. How ridiculous. I have a solid career and job. And why would you want to change that? Anyway, the one part of me must have won out, because I applied for the degree program and was accepted. So that's been my life for the last 3 years. And I'm just in the final stages now. I'm in what's called my clerkship year. So I'm in the home stretch. I will graduate next May, and will be hopefully registered midwife and be able to work finally in the profession that feels like it's always been who I was supposed to be.
That is so amazing. And how blessed are the mums and parents and babies who are going to get to be able to work with you and have worked with you, I mean, over your entire career. I've got some questions for all of you, but I want to bring Nancy on just so that we can get her introduction and find out what her recent career move was. I gotta say, I think I found out on Facebook, Nancy, and I was blown away to hear this news. But yet at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So why don't you tell us your story?
So, yes, I became a teacher. And I think why Shirley says she's not too surprised is because my mom was a teacher, my sister's a teacher. If you look on my dad's side of the family, you would count on two hands how many teachers there are. And then on my mom's side of the family, there's also many, many teachers. So I started in broadcasting. I went, and I know sometimes people have things planned out, what their career was going to be. I remember Tanya in high school. We were in candy striping together, and Tanya always knew she wanted to go down that medical field, but I really didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do. I thought dental hygiene. So I applied to dental hygiene schools, and on a whim, I applied to schools to go to for broadcasting. And I got into the broadcasting, and my mom said, oh, maybe you should just try that, because, you didn't really plan for it, and it just seems to be the path that you're meant to go on. So I did, and I had a really nice career in broadcasting. And as in lots of different environments, as you're in there for a long time and the management changes, they change the people who are working there. So people who have been there a long time tend to get laid off. And that's what happened to me when new owners came in. So then I had to, what am I going to do? So I applied to teachers, or I didn't apply to teachers college. I made a phone call, and I got some information that I wasn't expecting. And the information was, oh, you're too late. You can't apply. So after a conversation, she convinced me that I could never apply. So then I really had to think, okay, so what am I going to do? So
how old are you at the time?
40, 41.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So So then my sister, and I'll bring her into this conversation, she was in education. She was always teaching. So she and I decided that we would start a production company, website company, that sort of thing. And we did that for a little bit, and then we disbanded that. And then I started doing other little things, and my husband decided it was his turn to go to teacher's college. So he had been, he's an auto mechanic by trade, but he worked in NASCAR, and then he came back here and he was working in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series. He has a workshop where he was building race cars and things like that. And he decided, you know what, I want to retire from racing. I'm going to go into teaching. So we got his career established. And then when I was reading for his application, it's like, wait a minute, I think she gave me some wrong information. I think I can go to teacher's college. So I made a couple more phone calls, and finally in 2019, I enrolled. And this past year, so 2021, I have a full-time teaching job, and I meant to put it on Facebook, but it just has been so busy. 50 years, almost to the day of me starting kindergarten, I was starting as a full-time teacher.
Oh, that's
So
so cool.
yeah, I thought you would like that picture, Shirley, but I never took it. And so you have the story. It was just, we were late rushing out the door. And on my very first day of school, I actually missed the bus because we were taking pictures at home. And so I asked my dad, we lived in Brockville at the time. I didn't move to Wyerton until grade 2, lived in Brockville. And I asked my dad, who is an OPP and who know the roads very well, do you know how to get to Lynn, Dad? And he's like, yes, I know how to get you to Lynn. So that was first day of school. Anyway, so yeah, 50 years later, now I'm in a school. And surprisingly, the songs that you hear, like I have done, they call it LTO, contract position. So I graduated in July of 20. So for COVID 20 and then to June 21, I did LTO positions, contracts. And it's like a lot of the schools that I was supply teaching in play a lot of the songs from our youth in high school. It's like, just think back to that jukebox in the cafeteria, right? You can hear them still, and everybody's still popping away.
Oh, that's
Anyways,
so cool.
yes.
That's so cool, Nancy.
So do you mind if I bring my sister back into that?
Yeah,
Okay,
let's
so
go
now
to your sister.
So my sister, she is in education. She is retired. She's a retired elementary teacher. So she decided that when she retired, she was going to start another website business for teaching kids how to read. So that's what she's working on. So we kind of flipped. I went from broadcasting to teaching. She went from teaching to broadcasting. So it's kind of fun.
That's really cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is fun.
Amazing. So, think about people that might be watching or listening to this. Did that light, that midlife light that I was talking about, did it just suddenly like pop on? Or would you say that for you, these were things that were always percolating in the background and that you knew you wanted to start a business or become a midwife or change, that one day you would suddenly become a teacher? What was it like for you, Nikki?
I feel like I always had sort of like itchy feet. Wherever I was working, there was always something that I felt like I wanted more out of what I was doing day to day, spending those hours doing. I had some great career moves. I had some really exciting jobs in my life that I loved. But there was this element that was sort of missing in my life. It felt like my job and then sort of my life were kind of on two channels, and I wanted to kind of marry those somehow. I think Tanya, you were talking about, this piece inside you that's always sort of nagging. So for me, yeah, I was always looking for sort of something. I think it's just how I'm wired. And I appreciate the challenge, because what it did is allowed me to kind of take all the skill sets I've acquired throughout my life, pile them into a pile of hats, and now I get to wear all of them at the same time as a small business owner. But yeah, it's something that always was percolating there. I just never had the courage. I just never had I didn't know where to start. So I kept plugging along till finally, I guess I got fed up and just decided that might as well try it. I think you get to an age where you don't care anymore. You just dive into something new.
I like that phrase though, appreciate the challenge, because you're drawing in like your skills, your accumulated skills. And for me, the change was, itchy feet. I totally relate to that. Did a lot of really cool projects before I landed here. Now I'm in a space, it doesn't feel like work.
Mm.
Like, I don't feel like I have to get up and go to work. I just do what I do. And that feeling, I mean, it's really hard to put into words, but it's a feeling that's like solidly, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine doing anything else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like a lifestyle. It becomes like a part of your lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tanya, was it a big bright light, or was it a, slowly burning ember that you had to act on?
I think it was like the impossible dream. And so it burned for a long time. And then what Nikki said about being fed up, like there was maybe not a light, but just a lot of things that came together that, pushed you through that doubt and disbelief in yourself that this can never be. And you just say, well, it has to be. It has to be. I can't. This is going to sound really terrible, but I said to my husband, I can't die and not make this dream happen. Like, I can't get to the end of my life, not that I'm planning to die anytime soon, but I can't come to the end of my life at 90 years old and say, you just didn't try. You just didn't do it. So that was kind of like the ultimatum that I gave myself.
Oh, I think, as Oprah used to say, that's a tweetable moment, right? If anyone's listening to this right now and you're imagining sitting in your rocking chair and looking back, what is the thing that you want to do? Now's the time to do it.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully this conversation will give you the energy or the mojo to get that done. Nancy, what was it like for you? Big bright light or slow burning ember?
Well, I like a lot of variety. So I'm always looking for a change to do something, even no matter what I'm doing. It's like I'm always looking for, well, my dad would always say I was very ambitious. It's like, no, I'm just curious, right? I want to see what this does, see what that does. So even now I'm thinking, okay, I have about 10 years in teaching. What am I going to do when I retire? So always just kind of thinking, ahead. Because as Tanya said, like we are probably going to live a long time. So I like to, when I'm teaching the students, I like to say, okay, you have a puzzle and you're putting together all the different pieces of your puzzle. And so this, for instance, we have one piece, we went to school together and now our lives are coming back together, right? Yeah. But, you're just putting all your pieces, just like my little butterfly made up of lots of little pieces, right? In the end, you're going to have your puzzle and you want to look back and say, oh, I'm glad I did that. And you don't want any holes in your puzzle where you didn't try something that you think that you might have wanted to try. So yeah, it's, just keep moving forward, see what, what else can I do? What else can I do? Right.
That kind Very of thing. Well said. I have a line that I use a lot in the Menopause Chicks community. So forgive me if you've heard it before, but I think it's worth reiterating. And that is, we are the first generation of women to reach 50 and have 50 more years to plan for. Just at the turn of the last century, women died at age 51. Ooh. And now we are starting new careers. And some of us are starting new relationships and some of us are moving. And, all of these opportunities, we're standing at this incredible window of opportunity. So I love that you talk about that, Nancy, because it's like, what's next? And, right. And what are the missing pieces of the puzzle?
Well, also too, you have to get out of your comfort zone, because let me tell you, going back to university when I was in 52, 53, right? I didn't put a lot of thought into what it was going to be like to walk into the actual room and see 20-year-olds, right? It's like, oh, okay. So now you have to start to think about, you can kind of play that. If you're planning to do something like that, you can plan it ahead, but there are going to be challenges and there are going to be things that, you will surprise you, and you have to get out of your comfort zone. It was really uncomfortable. I don't know about for you, Tanya, but for me, it was really uncomfortable going back to university. And then COVID happened. So everything was like, I actually finished university as an online student. So
lots you had it all mixed in.
Yeah. And you just have to persevere and just kind of roll with it. But don't let it stop you that you're going to be uncomfortable.
Did you feel though any sense of the opposite, like that you had maybe a sense of more confidence than some of your fellow students when you did that?
No, not at all. Because they had just all come from university, right? So they knew,
everything.
the ins and outs, and right. And it's like, I was like, oh, they gave me an email address. Oh, okay. I have to find out what that is, right? I mean, it's just the little things that when we were in school, we didn't have an email address, all those things, right? So I went back to what was familiar to me, and it was not what was happening. So, it was just that big time gap. So, people will have that different experience no matter what they do, but, just keep persevering.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up too, because we are kind of approaching this subject with optimism, right? And encouraging. I mean, not everyone is going to change their careers. I get that. But we're approaching it sort of from this inspirational, optimistic point of view. But I'm glad you brought that up. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be, you're going to hear no on the phone, and you're going to have to push through and persevere. So that's really good advice. And your words of wisdom, get out of your comfort zone. I wrote that down. Love that. I'd love to hear, Tanya or Nikki, what your words of wisdom might be for our listeners.
Words of wisdom. I was just I really agree with Nancy and say that those first couple of weeks of school were excruciating, and feeling the age bias, even if it wasn't there, like the students proclaimed that it wasn't there, that it was all in my mind, but I felt it really strongly.
Wow.
So that is, if I can say anything to anyone, like, be prepared that it's going to be uncomfortable, and all of the things, the technology piece that we all have to learn to navigate. It can be a lot, even if we've been techie throughout, and with when you have teenagers, you try to stay capable, at least with technology, but university really pushed that to the limit. So I think that would be one warning, but certainly not a detriment to doing it, just to be forewarned that maybe be prepared for it.
So for somebody who hasn't walked your journey, Tanya, what is age bias? Like, what does that look like or feel like?
So when I started I really noticed it quite strongly in the online, this type of format.
Okay.
When I was staring at, another 20 some faces who were young and, beautiful and confident. And I'm looking at myself thinking, your hair is white, you're old, and that beating yourself up over that. And of course, no one ever said anything to that effect, but I said it to myself. So I finally had to turn off the pictures, because it wasn't good for my mental health. So I couldn't, until I got to know the people that I was going to school with, I couldn't just sit and look at their faces, because it was too difficult to picture myself fitting in their world. So that would be a tip maybe for someone doing online, for sure.
And were your professors accommodating, understanding?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Many of them are my age and have been midwives since before regulation. When the midwifery program started in 1993, a lot of them were some of the first educated. Some were before the regulation. So they are more my age than, I think, for the first little bit, people thought I was one of the instructors on the team.
You probably could have taught many of the courses that you were taking.
Not.
I bet. Okay, so Nikki, we're talking about both challenges and words of wisdom. How about for you?
Oh, wow. Okay. So I heard a couple of things that it just reminded me some of my experiences, like when you're starting something different, or showing up on video, or being asked to present in these new platforms. Like, we didn't have this back in the day, right? We didn't have this, and that's another challenge at this point. Is like, how do I interface with all these technologies? But what I realized is not when I think I don't know. And I feel like I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm the one who doesn't know. Nobody. What I realize is nobody really knows, and we're going through such, not just our lives, there's this transformation in our hormone systems, but like the world is really going through big change right now. So there's so many layers of things happening at the same moment. So I feel kind of a little more freedom, not being confined to sort of what expectations would have been maybe 5 years ago. Because even try as a woman in your 50s, if you need to like pick up a job or whatever, it's very challenging because of this age bias and ageism. Especially, I don't know, our culture has wanted forever, we've sort of like let women at a certain age just sort of fade out. And I think it's a time that we really need to embrace our wisdom that we have, and each other's wisdom. So I think the wisdom nugget is to like honor the wisdom that we've acquired all this through our experience of life, and also to recognize that in others. And that not everybody knows all the answers. And I think this transition in my life of going through menopause, and then also creating a new job for myself, creating a business, and then layering it with COVID and this big transition feels like in the world, right? Like everything's really changing dramatically. It just feels like there's more freedom. There are more opportunities. There are more things that we can grasp on, because like I said, there's no one with any real expertise on how to move forward. So I feel like this is actually such an awesome time for anyone with a great idea to be inspired. There are so many networks now for women who want to open their own business. There's so many like CEO. I just want to put that out there for anyone who is a woman who's interested in starting a business. It's just this. When I went out, I was looking for help, and you kind of put a voice out there, and you amaze how many women out there want to really like create something new. So it's kind of like strength in numbers too. So don't be alone where you're at. Reach out, connect with the networks out there, whether it's Menopause Chicks or entrepreneurial networks. There's just so much happening for women right now. So I just want to kind of encourage anyone who's listening and who's not sure, just dive in, try something new.
I love that. I heard wisdom, beauty, confidence, not knowing all the answers, and it's okay. You are not alone.
Yeah.
I would add one more thing to that, and it comes up quite a bit, and it resonates for me, and that is my BS meter has changed so much since I turned 50. And it's not that I don't care, and it's not that I care less. It's just a different paradigm shift for me. And like you mentioned, Nikki, and we've all kind of talked about technology, working for us or against us sometimes, but there's things that I have to do in this work that I've never done before. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I've had some long conversations with myself, but I've had to like forgive myself faster. Whereas it would have taken me down for days or weeks with a big error, mistake, or, some lack of judgment happened. Now it's like, oh, well, that didn't work out. So make a 45-degree turn and try something else. And that is something that I absolutely love about being in my 50s.
Yeah, me too. I have that experience as well. Yeah.
Good.
And you started to speak about the BS meter. I'm like, yeah, I'm right there with you. It's interesting, isn't it? It's so free. I feel liberated.
Yeah. I'm not so sure that all the folks I've been living with the last 20 years feel the same way, but it's all good. It's all good.
It's good. It's okay.
Yeah. Any closing remarks before we have? I mean, I could sit here and spend my entire Saturday talking with all of you, but any closing remarks you'd like to leave us with? Anyone?
Well, I have one. You never know who's watching. So you always want to try and do your best, because you don't know what need they might have. So for instance, right, Nikki, as an entrepreneur, she might be looking for somebody who has I don't know what you might be looking for, but and then you have a conversation or somebody tells you about something. So for instance, the way I got my job at Global was I was actually dating someone who lived right across the street from Global, and he told me all the time, put your resume in. I couldn't work there. So I worked somewhere else, and one of the girls I worked with said, I'm working a part-time job at the Sky Dome pouring beer. Why don't you come? You've got some time on your hands. I did that. A girl who worked at Global saw me, said, we're looking for somebody in our department. You should apply. And so I had a 2-minute interview, got the job. Yeah, right. So you just never know what need. And then I was able to pay that forward similarly to a young man who turned out Julio's race car team was looking for some teammates. So put him in connection with Julio, and long story short, he then his career went into drag racing, and now he's on an F1 team. So you just never know. So always do your best. Even if things aren't going your way, put a smile on your face. You never know who's watching, who's needing your help. So that would be my advice.
That's really good advice.
Great advice, Nancy.
Any other closing advice, Tanya, Nikki?
I think just to tell women in particular that if you've worked at a job for your whole life and your goal is to get to retirement, that's great. But if you really feel like that's not the journey, like that your life is not a race to the retirement line, and it's totally fine to do that, and don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
You can do something different at any point in your life, and it's good.
Well said. Love it. I just kind of want to add a little bit to that in that I felt like I used to see life as a hill that you get to the top and you'd start to kind of go down the other side, and hitting midlife started to bring that picture more strongly into my awareness. But what I'm realizing in this place of menopause is that this transition moment in life is part of our evolution, right? It's part of our development phase. So I just want to encourage them not to embrace that change and bring it into your daily life. Really, like, take time out for yourself. Self-care and wellness is so important. If we don't take care of ourselves, it's very hard to take care of others. So really, it's okay to put yourself on the front burner for a while to take care of you. So I just want to put that out there, because burnout can happen. We can get really overwhelmed if we don't take care of ourselves. So that's the one piece I want to add in there: self-care.
Sage advice. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And Jane Fonda has an excellent TED Talk about that, about the hill, the visual. But her analogy is it's stair steps. So
Nice.
She's in her 80s now. So she's kind of in the 8th level. And I love that, because we're always moving upwards towards something amazing.
Absolutely.
Nikki, before we go, tell us where we can learn more about your company.
Oh, excellent. I love this opportunity. So you can check us out online, Saponetti, so www.saponetti.ca. We're Canadian.
I'll drop that into the comments.
Absolutely. Yeah, pay us a visit. We're hyper local, so we're really trying to keep the supply chain tight. So this is really for the Toronto folks. If you decide that you want to check out refill options and you have some questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you see this and you want to place an order, let us know that you saw this video between now and the end of the month, and we'll put in a really nice little gift with purchase for you.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for reaching out to me. We haven't known each other very long compared to how long I've known these other two guests that we have. But I really appreciate you stepping up and doing this and sharing the story about your mom. Tanya, again, I feel that the families that have the opportunity to work with you are so blessed. And I think the work that you do is absolutely amazing. And Nancy, stepping into the classroom in 2021, wow, like my hat goes off to all of you for doing this incredible work. Thanks for joining us today. If you're listening to this, I do hope to see you on Monday for World Menopause Day. check out worldmenopauseday.com. We are drawing a line in the sand. 77% of women have questions about their midlife health, and 70% of women don't have anyone to talk to about perimenopause or menopause.
Wow.
So I hope that on Monday, we're going to take those statistics down, because we have answers, and you do have a community of smart, savvy women that you can have these important conversations with. So I will see you on Monday, and I wish all of you a great weekend. Thanks so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Shirley.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Shirley.
Shirley.